You ever stop and think about the story of Noah? I mean, not just the version you saw in cartoons or that Russell Crowe movie. I'm talking deeper, way deeper. What if the real story, like the Islamic version, completely flips your perspective? Imagine a man preaching truth for 950 years. A guy so committed, he starts building a massive ark in the middle of dry land while people straight up laugh at him. But here's the kicker. He doesn't quit. He doesn't bend. He builds. And what Islam says about that whole journey, it's not just about a flood. It's about resilience, obedience, trust in something bigger than yourself. I'm Joe Rogan, and today we're going deep. This isn't about religion versus science. This is about what it really means to stand alone and still stand tall. So get this. The Quran literally says, we sent Noah to his people, and he remained among them 1,000 years minus 50. That's 950 freaking years. Think about that for a second. That's not a metaphor. That's not a translation thing. That's the actual number, 950. This guy didn't just wake up one day and build a boat. He spent nearly a millennium calling people to a higher way of living. He wasn't hammering wood for 950 years. He was preaching, calling people out, begging them to wake up, to stop worshiping idols, to reconnect with the idea of one God, Tawhid. That's what hit me. You know, in the Western or biblical narrative, we mostly hear about Noah as the ark guy, right? The animals, the rain, the rainbow, the pairs of two. But in the Quran, Noah is more like a relentless messenger, a reformer, a spiritual warrior. And what blows my mind is nobody listened. Generations of people just mocked him, ignored him, discredited him, and he kept going. That's the part that haunts me, man. I do a podcast, and if one episode bombs, I'm questioning everything. Imagine doing the same message with sincerity for nearly 1,000 years, and almost no one responds. That's not just endurance. That's next-level spiritual stamina. That's faith under pressure. I mean, we freak out if we have to wait more than 5 minutes in traffic. Noah? He waited 950 years for transformation. That's when I started thinking this story isn't just about the past. It's a mirror to our own lives, how quickly we give up, how we crave instant results, how we chase numbers and likes instead of truth. But this guy, Noah, he didn't chase approval. He chased purpose. He stuck to the message because he believed in it, even when no one else did. And you know what? If you can preach for 950 years, if you can still care deeply about people who reject you every day, that's not just leadership, that's love. And that's something we need to talk about more. Man, picture this. You're out there in the middle of nowhere, bone-dry land, dust blowing, no ocean in sight, and you're building this giant ship. Like, massive. And everyone's watching you like you've completely lost it. What kind of lunatic builds a boat with no water? That's literally what Noah did. And in the Islamic version of the story, it's not just a side note, it's central. He's mocked. He's ridiculed. People laugh. They throw insults. They doubt everything. But he doesn't break. He doesn't even blink. That part hits me hard, because we live in this world now where most people can't handle one negative comment online, one troll, and they're spiraling. But Noah? He's doing something no one understands, no one believes in, and he just keeps building. That ark? It's not just wood and nails. It's a symbol of faith in action, a divine warning. And here's the deal. The Islamic version doesn't obsess over how many animals got on board. It's not a science textbook. It's not about zoology or measurements or blueprints. It's about moral accountability. The ark is a lifeline, not just for animals, but for the people who listened, for those who recognized the truth when it wasn't popular. Because in the end, that's the whole point. It's not about how many giraffes fit on the damn boat. It's about who had the courage to get on. And here's another wild thing. In the Quran, the ark doesn't land on Mount Ararat like in the Bible. It lands on Mount Judy. That detail might seem small, but it says a lot. It tells you this story has its own path, its own rhythm, its own truth. Mount Judy isn't just a location. It's a metaphor. A place of arrival after the storm. And that's what makes this so powerful. The ark, in Islam, is about building before the chaos hits. That's the message right there. Build when it makes no sense. Trust the vision when no one else sees it. Because when the flood comes, and it always does, it won't matter what people thought. It'll only matter who listened. This is the part that wrecked me, man. Because it's one thing to be rejected by strangers. But what happens when it's your own son? In the Quran, as the floodwaters rise, Noah, Nuha, in Arabic, he sees his son standing apart, refusing to board the ark. And he begs him, "My son, come aboard with us. Don't be among the disbelievers. But the son, he thinks he can save himself. He says, I will take refuge on a mountain. And Noah answers, there is no protection today from God's command. But it's too late. The waves take him. That's not just storytelling. That's pain. Imagine that you spend 950 years warning people, begging them to change. And your own blood, your son, chooses pride over truth. And you watch him disappear in the flood. It's brutal. But here's the part that flipped everything for me. Noah turns to God, heart cracked wide open, and pleads for his son. And God responds, firm but clear. He is not of your family. His actions were not righteous. And that hits different. The message is heavy. Blood ties don't override moral alignment. Just because someone's your family doesn't mean they walk your path. That truth, it hurts. But it's also freeing. Because sometimes the hardest people to reach are the ones closest to you. And Noah doesn't curse the world. He doesn't rage against the heavens. He submits. He thanks God. He prays. He accepts what's been given and starts over. That level of emotional strength, that's not weakness. That's power. We're conditioned to react with anger when we lose something, especially something sacred. But Noah teaches something else entirely. Radical surrender. It's like, if you really believe in a higher purpose, you don't get bitter. You get focused. You reset. You rebuild. And that's what Noah did. After all the mocking, the rejection, the flood, the loss of his son, he reset civilization. Think about that. What would you do if the people you loved the most walked away from you? Would you collapse or would you carry on? Noah chose to carry on with grace. And that choice, it echoes louder than the flood. Look, let's be real. The flood today, it's not water. It's distraction. It's misinformation. It's moral emptiness wrapped up in high-speed internet and short attention spans. I think about that all the time. The flood of our time is digital. It's internal. It's the algorithm feeding you noise 24/7. It's scrolling past suffering, laughing at truth. People out here, heads buried in their phones, swimming in content, but starving for meaning. That's the modern flood. And here's what's wild. We still mock the ones sounding the alarm. Just like in Noah's time, people laughed. What's this guy doing building a ship in the middle of nowhere? Today, it's, why you going off-grid? Why you meditating, fasting, reading ancient texts? Why are you not vibing with the crowd? Because the crowd is drowning, man. We've got climate chaos, wild greed, spiritual burnout, and people treating truth like it's optional. And the few who stand up, who say, hey, maybe we should pause and think for a second, they get laughed off the timeline. But let me tell you, just like Noah, you got to build anyway. That's why I say, don't wait for the rain. Build your lifeboat now. Build your mental ark. I'm talking about clarity, values, stillness, the capacity to withstand storms. Because storms are coming, maybe not with water, but with pressure, stress, confusion, lies, division. You can't fight that with more noise. You need inner silence. You need foundation. You need to be the kind of person who can stand alone and still stand strong. I've had people come on my podcast, deep thinkers, scientists, spiritual folks, and the one thing they all agree on, we're in a flood of distraction. And if you don't start anchoring yourself in something real, something timeless, you're going to get washed away. Noah didn't wait until the first drop of rain to pick up a hammer. He built for years before the clouds even rolled in. And, people mocked him. But the ones who laughed the loudest, they didn't make it. So ask yourself, are you scrolling through the flood, or are you building something that lasts? Your ark's not a boat. It's your mind. Build it. You know what always blows my mind about these stories in Islam? It's the pattern. Almost every messenger, they get rejected. These aren't guys with viral followings or big stages. These are people standing alone, speaking truth into crowds that didn't want to hear it. Nuh, he's the first of the Ulul Azm. That means those of firm resolve. The prophets of resilience. He's not just a figure in a flood story. He's the blueprint for what it means to hold the line when nobody's with you. And that's rare today, man. We live in a world obsessed with noise, with who can yell the loudest, who's trending, who won the debate, who clapped back harder. But truth's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's stubborn. It's consistent. Noah didn't go viral. He didn't trend. He just kept speaking 950 years, decade after decade. Same message. Turn back to truth. Let go of pride. Worship one God. Live with justice. People laughed. They ignored. And he never changed the script just to fit in. That right there, that's moral clarity. Not the kind you shout at people, the kind you live. And if you're out here trying to find meaning in this loud, chaotic world, maybe that's your lesson too. Don't get tricked by the numbers. You don't need millions behind you to be right. You don't need applause to be aligned. What you need is anchor, something real enough to hold on to when everything else goes crazy. That's what Noah had. He didn't have a platform. He had purpose. So ask yourself, are you chasing approval or standing in truth? Because the ones who make the biggest impact, most of the time, they're not the loudest. They're just the ones who don't quit. And man, in today's world, that's revolutionary. You know what I've learned after years of talking to scientists, philosophers, monks, and martial artists? The deeper you go into physics, biology, ancient texts, meditation, the more you start to realize something wild. Science and faith aren't enemies. They're not fighting each other. Science explains the how. Faith asks the why. And you need both. That's what I love about how Islam approaches it. The Quran doesn't tell you to shut your brain off. It literally invites you to think. It says, reflect. Look at the skies, the seas, the creation of man. Observe the signs. It's not about blind belief. It's about intelligent surrender. A surrender that comes after looking at reality with wide open eyes. And man, that resonates with me. Because I've always questioned things. Still do. I question systems, culture, my own thoughts. But at some point I started asking deeper. Why is there even a system to question? Why does this universe run on such tight laws? Why does beauty exist? Why does meaning matter? And that's where awe kicks in. You stand at the edge of reason and realize there's more. That's the place where Noah stood. That's the kind of clarity he had. He wasn't trying to win debates. He was just grounded in something real. And that's the challenge I leave you with, especially in today's flood of confusion. What are you building? Are you just consuming, endlessly scrolling, endlessly reacting? Or are you constructing something within yourself that can actually survive a storm? Because while the world mocks, distracts, and floats off in shallow waters, a few people are out there quietly building arcs. Arcs made of discipline, truth, purpose, internal resilience. You don't have to believe what I believe, but ask yourself honestly, what side of the flood are you on? Me? I'd rather build something real, even if I have to build it alone. That's the spirit of Noah, and I think we need that now more than ever.